Tuku, 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 tuku. Hello, everybody. What's going on? What do we want to talk about? Happy Monday, by the way. A lot of fun stuff happened over this weekend. Um, what do we want to get into? What do we want to get into? We could talk about the Shannon Sharpe settlement. We can talk about Donald Trump suing the Wall Street Journal over the letter that came out. There's just so many fun things that we could be talking about. We could be talking about. I mean, okay, let's get. Well, we could be talking about Pascal's sister. I believe wants to play Jean Grey, and then in the new X-Men. Let's just dive into that story real quick. For some reason, they could never get the story of Jean Grey, like the Phoenix Saga. I don't know. This is interesting to you guys, but I don't know. It's interesting to me. Is that they've tried to do this, and if you're into the X-Men like lore and stuff, they Hollywood has tried to do the Phoenix story like a billion times, and every single time it is the end of whatever new version of the X-Men that they're working on. Like, yeah, if you remember like 90s X-Men, the what's her name played it? You know, the one with Hugh Jackman X-Men back then. They had, oh my god, what's her name? That played Jean Grey then. She was great as Jean Grey, but then they jacked up the story when they started moving towards the Phoenix story, and then boom, dunsies. And then when they tried it again, what was it, X-Men Apocalypse or whatever, right? Boom, dunsies. You just can't. And I guess they're trying to do it earlier now. Maybe they're like, we're gonna get it right this time, and we're gonna just get it out of the way. We're gonna do the Phoenix X-Men saga story early, and if we can hit it out right away, we can start working on the other stories. Like there are like a billion storylines of the X-Men, but for some reason they keep going to the same stories. Let's look into this real quick. What's her name? I think it's Lux Pascal. Let's look into her. She's an actress, a transitioned actress, and what is she? I mean, she's not familiar to us because I believe she does mostly Chilean. Let's just look at some photos real quick. All right, let's just pop up some photos so you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm not sure. It says activist, like trans activist. I'm not sure if let's pop up some pictures. Okay, you guys know who I'm talking about. I have no idea who this person was before she announced her wanting to play. Here's a picture of them together. Okay, together. Okay, I mean, pretty good job. All right, here's another photo of them. Let me see. Boop boop. All right, this is another photo of her. Like, I guess this is more of a collage. Let's just get into it. Okay, this is who we're talking about. Her name is Lux. She wants to play. Like this photo here, she looks just like 90s Jean Grey. So I can see where like she wants to play Jean Grey. Well, I don't know anything about her. Let's see. She's known for playing La Jacura and La California in 2019 and 2022. appearing inside her brother Pascal in Narcos. Okay, she was in Narcos. Okay. I mean, it seems like she's a big time actress. She was in Juilliard. Oh, that's just fine. See, this is the part where I'm unclear. I just know they said that she is trans, but I'm looking at the thing. It says trans activist. Like I don't know. I don't know. Let's figure this out. Okay, yes. Okay, confirmed. Is a transitioning woman. Okay. Actress, model, younger sister of Pedro Pascal. And I have to say, Pedro Pascal, I feel like in the last, like, you guys feel like 10 years or so? He's really blown up as, you know, I mean, Pedro, you can't go wrong with Pedro, I feel like. In this climate, Pedro Pascal, he's like big time. He's in all kinds of cool stuff. So just having that Pascal name is awesome. Blossom. What do you guys think? Do you think Lux here can play? Let's pull up another picture of Miss Lux. Okay. I'm sorry, my mouse is acting up right now. It's all slow. All right, let's just grab this and we'll get a whole bunch of different pictures. Okay. Why is the mouse so slow? Okay. Lux. What a name. Lux. Okay, so this is lady. She wants to play Jean Grey in whatever version of the Phoenix story or X-Men that it's coming out. And she said that she identifies with the Jean Grey storyline of, like the Phoenix rebirth, that whole storyline. And I'm gonna say this again. Hollywood has yet to successfully adapt the Phoenix story. I feel like they should just move on from the Phoenix story. We don't need it. They keep trying, like, Hollywood keeps trying to do the same stories. There's a billion stories, and we've seen the Phoenix story before. I don't know. Keep in mind, I don't know if they're really doing the Phoenix story. I'm just saying, if whatever version of the X-Men that we're gonna get later on, please skip the Phoenix story. They've done it 2 times already, and both times it flopped. Stop doing the Phoenix story. It doesn't work. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work. And for all future superhero, like, we all know these stories. Just do a different story. There are so many story arcs that they could be doing, but I bet you, the lazy Hollywood writers are just going to do the same stories that we've always seen all the time. But I guess the argument would be, if you are 10 years old, 12 years old, you don't know these stories as well, especially if you're comparing it to someone that's like 30 years old. They actually grew up big time with the comic books and X-Men and, like, all the different storylines, and with the cartoon, so a big chunk of the what to expect. I guess that's why they keep redoing the same stories over again. Is because, like, oh, they gotta get a new audience. I mentioned this before. Last time I went to Universal Studios, the amusement park, I went with my family and then another family, and I'm walking through Universal Studios, right? And then I see their IPs, like their intellectual properties. This is how they make the money, like they get like kids indoctrinated or whatever into these characters, and then they just sell them merch from kids all the way up. And I'm walking through Universal, and I'm like walking through, and I'm like, when's the last time they made a Back to the Future? I bet like my kid doesn't barely knows what Back to the Future is. And there are big sections of Universal Studios that's like Back to the Future. I'm like, yeah, but the kids that are going through here don't know what Back to the Future is. Hollywood, remake Back to the Future. If anything, you know? I know it's like, oh, it's a classic, you can't remake it. And Back to the Future in a way still holds up. I was trying to watch it with my kid the other day. I want him to like watch movies that I grew up with because I feel like those are those are still good. Um, and I was watching Back to the Future, and it's still good. So maybe you don't have to remake it, but I'm just saying the average kid doesn't know what Back to the Future is anymore. And your theme park there's like a sections of Back to the Futureness, and I'm like, they don't know what this is. And then there's another part of the park, and they had like the Water World themed park thingamajiggy is still at Universal Studios. I know what Water Work is, you know, I mean Water World, and but there was only one Waterworld movie, and it flopped in the box office, one of the most expensive movies ever made, and I could see where they're like, "We gotta get our money back." Um, but they still have the Waterworld, like, that's a whole thing that should be reskinned, like half the times they at these theme parks they just reskin things. Waterworld at Universal needs to be reskinned into something else that I don't know, make it like Aquaman or like they could totally reskin Waterworld into something else that is more relevant to now. And I mentioned this too before. I was going through, and they still have the Mummy ride. When's the last time they released a mummy movie or anything like isn't the whole point I'm just helping you guys out, Universal, okay? When's the last time anyone talked about the mummy besides the time when Brandon Fraser became the whale and everyone's like, whoa, look how great he is. And then people started looking back at his old work and they're like, oh man, remember how great the mummy was? Well, Universal Studios still has the mummy ride, and it's been like 20 plus years since the mummy. That needs to be reskinned. I don't know how we got to this topic, but hey, that's how it goes. Let's see what else we want to touch on real quick before we move on. Um, oh, I mean, I just heard that Six Flags Magic Mountain out here in California is closing down, and their last. I think they've announced that in 2027 they're done. Oh, sorry, they're dunsies. They're done. They're closing down. And this is related to what I was saying about Universal. Six Flags needs to be more relevant. I haven't been to Six Flags in maybe like a few years, but I remember the last time I was there. Their what is their big IP? What is Six Flags big IP? I just know that they're big on Looney Tunes. Um, when's the last time you saw anything related to the Looney Tunes out and about. Do you see what I'm talking about? Things need to be reskinned or refreshed for the younger generation. Like they have big sections, I believe, at Six Flags. I'm keep in mind, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't been there in a few years, but I just remember the last time I was there, they were still pushing a lot of Looney Tune stuff. And oh, okay, now I remember now. Six Flags, their big thing is what Looney Tunes and DC stuff. If I remember, yeah. Okay, it's coming back. It's coming back. I haven't been there in a long time. The DC stuff is okay. The Looney Tune stuff they need to do something about because when's the last time Looney Tunes was relevant to the younger generation? Um, well, but then Six Flags is more geared towards like I want to say 12, 10 and up. Am I wrong about Six Flags? Six Flags is like 10 and up. So I don't know. I'm just saying that they in a way I'm sad to hear that they're leaving. Maybe they'll just get maybe they're let's look into it real quick a little more. I just saw the headline. Why is Six Flags closing? Okay, Six Flags is indeed closing. California's Great America Adventure in Santa Clara. Okay. At the end of the 2027 season, this decision comes as the current lease for the land is expiring and the company does not plan to renew or extend it. The park will celebrate its 50th season in 2027 before closing. Okay, very interesting. Oh, hmm. Oh wait, but Six Flags is also closing Six Flags America in Maryland. Okay, you see. So it's just not the California thing. They're just closing a whole bunch of stuff. But they're saying it's because the lease is not. They're not going to renew the lease. What is the lease on the land on Six Flags? It must be massive. um, where do we want to go with this story? Six Flags is closing. It's too bad. I feel like all the rides at Six Flags were my favorite. When when you work up the courage to eventually go ride a Six Flags ride, um, like I remember being afraid of roller coasters as a kid, right? Until I went to a bunch of Six Flags rides, and I was like, "Oh, everything else is easy." I mean, that's to me, that's how I ration out roller coasters, where you do the hardest one, whichever one you think is the scariest one, you do that one, and then everything else that's supposedly a tier below that is easy. You know, like what, how old was I? I think I was like 12, 13, 14 when we went to I think at the time it was called X and now it's called X2. I don't know why they they rebranded it to X2 when I was like when when it's exactly the same ride, but for some reason they call it X2 now. And it's literally exactly the same. They just reskinned it a little bit and then they call it X2. And we went on that ride and that changed my whole roller coaster uh outlook because I was like this at the time that was like the biggest scariest ride that could have gone into, and it was like, oh my gosh, every other ride from compared to that was easy or not as scary. So it gave me the confidence, or at least the idea that, oh, I can go do any ride now. Or if there was a ride that I thought that was scarier than that ride, I would just be like, oh, it's just a little bit scarier. It wasn't that much bad. So I feel like if you're afraid of roller coasters, Six Flags is the place to go to because Six Flags raises the bar. I felt like they had the most accessible, scary roller coasters, and then everything else was just not as scary. And everything else, I'm like, oh, I've done this before. All right, that's that for Six Flags. I don't even know how we got there, but that's that. What else do we want to talk about today? What else is going on in the world? Um, I mean, we could touch on the Trump thing. I think I've covered it like so much already. I'm in a way, I'm tired of talking about it, but let's not let it down because in a way, it is a interesting story that still needs to be covered. Um, the Trump thing and the letter and the Wall Street Journal. If you guys don't know, the Wall Street Journal published, I mean, they didn't publish the letter, they published a story talking about the letter. People wish they actually showed the real letter itself, but they just described it, which is an interesting move, I thought. If you guys, like I said, if you guys don't know, the Wall Street Journal published a story about a letter that Donald Trump supposedly wrote to Epstein, our favorite person in the world, for his, I believe, 50th birthday. Someone could correct me. I don't know, the actual birthday number. That's irrelevant. And Donald Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal, saying it's fake. I think I've watched and read a bunch of content about this letter and just the whole idea of it. And the consensus is pretty strong. I feel like that the Wall Street Journal would not have published this story without making sure they're buttoning it up. Like I'm sure they ran. This is the Wall Street Journal, guys. They are lawyered up to the wazoo. They're not some random, like person on on the internet. This is the Wall Street Journal. They have standards and whatnot. They have a team. They have lawyers. They have lawyers on retainer that are paid regardless of what happens. Um, there's just so many parts of this story that I find very fascinating to me. I don't know if you guys find it interesting. I find these little tidbits interesting. It's the fact that one, of course, the Wall Street Journal would have, you know, verified, done their homework before publishing this. And then the other thing that I thought is very interesting is that some people are saying that this actually sets Donald Trump up, especially with the lawsuit. If this lawsuit keeps on going, sets him up for more trouble down the road regarding this story because he has to, for his lawsuit to be successful. And this is where the Wall Street Journal knows that they are in a very strong legal position. For Donald Trump's lawsuit to be successful, I believe he's suing for $10 billion, which the dollar amount I think is just just to make the headlines. He is the master at that. Um, for his lawsuit to be successful, he has to prove a number of different factors, while the journal does not. I mean, who knows how this could go down later on? I mean, there's a lot of like legal stuff that has been happening that we're all like, what? We're so confused. Like the Stephen Colbert thing. Um, you know, there's that, and I don't know. There's a bunch of legal stuff that's been happening that's just out of the ordinary. But Donald Trump would have to, like, for his lawsuit to be successful, um, he would basically have to say the letter does not exist, right? I mean, that's basically the basic idea, right? He's saying that this is fake, right? The letter's fake. Um, the Wall Street Journal, they for this to go through and be really successful on Trump's part, he would have to prove that one, the letter is fake. Two, the Wall Street Journal knew that it's fake and it published it anyways with malice. That's the basic like summary of it. There's more into it, but that's basically it, right? He would have to prove one, the letter's fake. Two, the Wall Street Journal knew that it's fake and published it anyways. So but there, see, that gives the Wall Street Journal so many outs because one, and in a way, Trump would have to say that the whole was it the leather bound collection of letters that doesn't exist, but they already have people that said that they wrote like like there are other witnesses that said that yeah I wrote a letter into this birthday collection this you know you know what I mean like what's his name Alan Dershowitz where the lawyer Epstein's lawyer he said he wrote something in there that and like what's his the Victoria's Secret guy said that he wrote a letter into this collection like so there are other witnesses that said that this Ghislaine Maxwell's birthday plan happened. Okay. And during this period, Mr. Trump was buddy buddy with Epstein. I mean, there's there's footage of it, there's videos, like there's some pictures like this. So I'm just saying that very interesting. So that proves in a way, and again, we're all we're speculating, making assumptions that this birthday collection exists. And then, he's like, "Oh, I don't draw. I don't draw." And then, like, literally within like a minute, everyone was like, "Hey, we found all these drawings that you got. S- where are we going with this?" So the letters exist. Like other people wrote letters. It would assume that, hey, your buddy here would have wrote a letter in there. Okay, so Trump has to prove that it doesn't exist, but it does because other people wrote letters. And it doesn't mean that he wrote the letter. He could say, here's a defense. He could say, "Oh, I had my assistant do it." I mean, that's a believable thing. you know, Rich guy, I have a personal assistant that handles things, and they just do things for me, and boom, boom. I'm like, oh, maybe this other. We need to take a look at this assistant I had. He was the one, or she was the one that did it. I don't know. That could work. But yeah, there's that. So if he can't prove that the letter doesn't exist, then he have to prove that um, it doesn't say what it says, right? I mean, no one's actually seen the letter. Supposedly, the Wall Street Journal themselves don't have the letter. It's somewhere, and we never got actual real pictures of it, or no one published it for realsies. And maybe they didn't. Okay, here's the thing. Here's a thought. They didn't publish it for realsies because this way, if this legal action happens, I'm pretty sure they assumed some kind of legal action was going to happen. They could assumed because what was the other thing I said that the Wall Street Journal knew that it was fake and they published it anyways, right? they're they can say that they were going off of very credible resources or witnesses or whatever, and this is what they were told, and they they fact checked it to the best of their ability, and this is what their fact checkers found, and they can probably show some sort of chain of fact checking this, right? And go through it, and maybe that's why they didn't publish it that way. They can say that, hey, um, we did our best. There was no malice here because that's the big part of this lawsuit is, you guys did it with malice intent. Oh my gosh. I was watching Venture Brothers again the other day and that show does not get enough credit for its genius. Venture Brothers is I think, one of my favorite cartoons growing up. Uh, and I was watching it again, and it's still so good. And what I love about Venture Brothers is actually when they use like the craziest words, or they're like, was it the guild of calamitous intent? I don't know. I love Venture Brothers so much. Uh, and but yeah, they would have to prove. prove that the Wall Street Journal did this on purpose with malice. And they go just say, like, no, this is what we reported. This is what we were given. This is the information we have. We fact checked it. We did this. We did that. We did this. And this is what it came out to be. And then it'll be up to Donald to prove them wrong. And then, see, here's the thing. That means if we know that the letter exists, it'll be fun just for Donald to release. Like he'd be like, "That letter's a fake. I would never say Enigma. This is what I really said," and he releases his version, and it says something completely different, but close. Like yours is fake because I would never say Enigma. I said question. Life is a question. Like just simmer down the words a little bit. um, but it's basically the same thing, and it's like we're like, oh no. Let's see. What else? What else do we want to get into? Oh, the Shannon Sharpe situation. If you guys haven't been following along, Shannon Sharpe recently settled a lawsuit um of from a OnlyFans. Was she's like 19 or something, 18 at the time, or 17? Who knows? Super young for him, and he just settled a fifth. The lawsuit itself was $50 million. It's unclear how much he settled for, but we're assuming tens of millions. I'm assuming, right? And I saw somewhere that on she made a post, and I'll look into this more. Allegedly, let's throw it allegedly out there because I don't we gotta fact check that, but let's throw an allegedly out there. Allegedly, supposedly, she made a post saying that she is now going to retire from OnlyFans. Very interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole scenario? Settling the lawsuit, of course, you know what everyone's going to say that settling a lawsuit is not an admission of guilt. It's just you don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to drag this out, blah blah blah, or you don't want the details to come out. But I mean, we got enough of the details that it's already damaging. So settling it, I don't know. It's kind of a hard. That's a hard situation. Um, there's that thing where they're like, believe all women. There's that like every time something like this happens, someone's always like, you gotta believe all women. But it's so hard to believe all women when they are bad actors in there, and they kind of mess it up for the rest of them. I think I mentioned this earlier when I was really getting into the Diddy case and whatnot, and I believe, and someone can give me some pushback on this, but my initial take when I was going through the Diddy stuff is that Cassie, right? Cassie seemed like she is the biggest winner of this whole situation, right? If you just think about Cassie's career, where she was going, where she's at right now, um, I know she made that argument that, hey, Diddy's in control of my career. You know, I haven't released any new music in a while, or at least it hasn't. There's no marketing, there's no push behind my stuff, and I'm being shelved. I'm being shelved, being shelved, and this whole thing with the Diddy stuff happens. I feel weird calling him Diddy. I grew up calling him Puff Daddy. We'll just call him Puffy. All right. The whole thing with Puffy happened, and what was it? She got settled for what was it, like 10, 15 million, 20 million, and then she got another chunk later on. So I believe in total. Let's look this up real quick before I just talk on my butt. How much money did Cassie get from settlements? All right, let's see. All right, so it looks like she settled her lawsuit against Diddy for 20 million, and I believe during the case, it showed that it came out that she got another $10 million from the hotel. Again, someone correct me if I'm wrong. So in total, she got about $30 million. So this whole Diddy situation, who's the real winner? Cassie is, and we got her testimony and everything, and it didn't. It just, I don't know. It didn't look good for her overall. I don't know if you guys have followed the story or not. What do you guys think about Cassie's how she ended up afterwards? Because I feel like it came. It's just, I don't know if it's almost like an Amber Heard situation, but it's not. Amber Heard's like you know. But I just feel like she. No, I'm sorry. It's not even close to the Amber Heard situation because Amber Heard completely lost everything. You know what I mean? Career, public. Like I would be surprised if we ever see Amber Heard's face again. Um, but the Cassie thing. I mean, she's the biggest winner of this whole thing. She got $30 million from this whole ordeal and just right off into the sunset. Um, so I don't know. Of course, I'm not condoning anything that actually happened to her. It was all bad. It's all bad. All losers in this case, by the way. I always thought that was very interesting when it's like the parties and the involved, they're all like, we're cool with this, we're done with this, but the government's like, we're not letting this go. And eh, I don't know if you guys know that there's this thing in DV cases where, just an example, like let's say husband, boyfriend, whoever, husband, let's go that way, does DV against the wife. The wife later, the wife goes to the police station, files a report, and then maybe the day after she recants. Like she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, I don't know if you guys know because that even if she takes it back, like her her statement and everything, and becomes like a hostile witness, like I don't want to be involved in this anymore. I regret it. Maybe I made a mistake or whatever. The government will still continue with their case once you file um like the DV case or whatever. Once that gets opened up, it doesn't get sealed back up, even though, and then you have to go through the whole legal battle. um like my uncle went through this. he I don't know what like he basically, like, keep in mind, this is what I've heard. Supposedly something happened and his ex-wife, to get back at him, went to the police station, filed a report, and then, you know, and then later regretted it, took it back. But then the the government or the state or whatever continued with the charges, and she was like, "What the hell? I don't want this to continue to keep going." And they had to go to court and everything, and it was just a big waste of a lot. And I understand, but I understand the reasoning behind it. It's because a lot of times what happens is, husband, boyfriend, whatever, does that to someone, and then they realize, they file a report to get some safety, and then after during that period, they go, "Oh my gosh, if this person goes away, that's great. But at the same time, how are, let's say, bills or whatever, it's gonna get taken care of. Like, I actually need this person around, or maybe, and or like what the government from the government's perspective is, oh, this happens all the time. Female files a case, right, and then they recant because they're under threat or like distressed from the other person. That's why, like, that's usually the, I believe that's the assumption from the government. They're like, oh, you're recanting because you're under distress, so we're gonna keep pushing forward. And but I don't know. I always felt like if the person is recanting, then you're gonna the prosecutor has a hard case to go with now, because in a lot of those cases, there's only one witness. It's the other person they got, you know. And if they are no longer willing to recant, it's like the only person that wins in that whole scenario are the lawyers. The, because the lawyers, the guy has to hire an attorney to defend himself. The prosecutors, they just have a case that they get to work on, and I mean, I'm pretty sure the prosecutors know that this case is gonna die without the female witness, and they're gonna be like, they're gonna subpoena her to testify and whatnot. Um, or they can just go off of the evidence that they got from the police station, and they don't even need her. They're like, oh, they could just say like, hey, she didn't want to testify because she's afraid, and she's in the corner like, what, I don't want to do this anymore. If you lock him up, then who's gonna pay the bills? That, because that happens. And so I don't know. I just thought that was very interesting about the whole Diddy thing. That every time, I don't know, every time when I saw it says government versus Diddy, I'm like, oh, okay. Um, I don't know. Okay, what else is happening out there in the world? Bombs are going off. The whole Russia thing is actually very interesting, where they're like, "Oh, we're talking peace, peace," and then bombs are going off at the same time. Oh, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna take a break, and I'll be back a little bit later. See you guys.